What to do when you are not 100% sure you want to marry your girlfriend of 3 years.
Then don't get married. But keep in mind, if the clock is ticking and that's what she wants, that's her value system. She may ditch you. She may go, time is up, and rejection breeds obsession. And then all of a sudden, I lost the love of my life. I got to get her back. That's typically what happens. But if it doesn't feel right, then you should trust that intuition. When you feel squishy about people and you're like, you should trust that. I found that when I have not listened to that little voice, the results are less than desirable. Well, but when I do, they always turn out better. Always happier. It's like learning to trust your. What Steve Jobs say? You got to learn to trust your, or you should follow your heart, your curiosity, and your intuition, because they somehow already know what you want to become.
I've noticed that maybe it's just me. I don't know about you guys, but I've noticed a lot of people nowadays have been getting a lot of doubts whether or not to marry their significant other. I don't know if this is like a new generational thing
There's
or
a thing called cold feet, is what they've always labeled it.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, if that's your thing, if that's your value system, and it feels right, and you want to do it, you've been dating several years, she's easygoing, easy to get along with, you like listening to her, she likes listening to you, you're having sex at least 2, 3 times a week still. That's what healthy relationships are after many years, typically. A lot of people, I'd say, a large majority, are they've been together many years. It becomes like every 2 weeks, twice a month for a release. And there's lots of dudes that aren't getting any. I had a guy I knew, came from a wealthy family, and this is going back like 20 years ago, and he was a total beta male. His wife dominated him. When they first started dating, she had long hair, she was real pretty feminine. She'd cut all her hair off. She was very masculine, didn't wear any makeup, gained weight. And, when I had last talked to him, it'd been like 7, 8 years since the last time they had sex.
Yeah.
And
What?
he was putting up with it. He was staying married.
7, 8 years.
That's a
She
long
she
time.
found a battery friend or somebody, a
She
flesh
was not
friend,
giving it up.
a new flesh friend.
But
Well, she wasn't looking very attractive at
Oh,
that
so
point
she
anyway,
had a
so I don't
battery
think she
friend.
had lots of. It's not exactly like dudes were lining up around the block for her.
Maybe she was just depressed. So
Yeah.
a
Well,
lot
she
of
was the
times.
mom, she ran the household, and he
Yeah.
was just so meek and weak, and she put him in his place.
but what I was trying to say is like I noticed that like I've mentioned like there are a lot of people that they have been getting a lot of cold feet. I don't know if it's like that time that we did that video on polygamy and how a lot of people are more open to doing open relationships and all that, because I've noticed that's like more of the norm now. And when it comes to marrying your significant other, it's not, or the thought of marrying your significant other, it's not. A lot of people have been getting cold feet. So why do you think
It's
that's
always been an issue, but if you look at over the last 100 years, globally, even especially in the West, it's gone from very kind of religious and prudish kind of society to very open to having, when birth control comes along, you get the sexual revolution, and so women can have sex, and for the most part, as long as they're regular with their pills, not have to get pregnant. And they've invented obviously other types since then, and you get the sexual revolution, you got the feminist movement, you got both men and women working, so both parents aren't spending as much time with the children as they would have under the old model, where dad went and earned the bread and slayed the dragons during the day and came home to a wife who was baking cookies and and turkey and hamburgers and steaks and all that stuff, and kind of like the Ward Jude Cleaver. And then the more the kids were out of the influence of the parents, or because everybody got busy, then you got the school system or the neighborhoods raising the kids. So you see the influence of what happens. And then so the other thing you got to consider is that what kind of relationship, what is your outcome? Are you a religious person, or you say you're a Christian, or a Muslim, or you want to get married and be with one person forever and have kids, or you just want somebody to date, you looking for a companion, somebody to live with, because lots of people don't like kids, don't want kids, and a lot of younger people I see have come to believe the propaganda that having children is bad, and so they think it's bad for the environment, bad for Gaia, and so they don't want to have kids at all. And so if you're not going to have children, what's the point of getting married? So if you're gonna, I mean, ideally, if two people get together and love each other, and the goal should be to love each other first, but obviously you want to make great humans together. And so if you're not going to stay together with somebody long term and have a family or kids, unless you're just looking for companionship and you don't want kids, there's plenty of people that do that. But ideally, especially when you look at with the way the laws have changed over the last 60, 80 years, to where, especially in blue states, you look at California and some of those other states, it's like, man, when you go through divorce court, it's just the guy, it's completely slanted in the woman's favor, and he just gets financially crushed.
Kanye
And
has to
it's
pay
not
200 million
it's
a
not
month.
200,000.
Oh, 200,000.
Yeah, that's right. Kanye,
That's
Kanye
it.
has to pay 200,000 a month in
Oh.
child support to Kim. Does she have more money than him?
I was gonna say,
thought?
I'm pretty sure she's worth way more.
Well, I guess because she's taking care of the kids, and
Oh, he's
she has
not
primary
mentally.
custody, I would think.
He's not mentally stable to take care of 4 children, let alone 1. But I don't know. I think that if you are not sure if you want to marry the girlfriend of 3 years,
Don't do it if you don't feel right. Don't
you
do
should let her know first. Don't If that's something that she wants. That's a conversation that the two of you need to
it.
have.
Well, let's look at Dominic, prime example.
Great example.
Dr. Deanna, he would, and Ashley, she was like 25, he was like 51, and he went and got a vasectomy. He's like, I don't want to have any more kids, and then he told her afterwards, and she was like, I'm out. I want a family.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have babies, and then they split up, started dating other people, but Dominic went and got those tubes untied. They got back together, and now they got a 1-year-old Beau, and I think they're gonna probably have another one.
It's adorable.
So in that particular case, her goals are she wants babies, and Dominic was like, my life is better with her in it, so she wants to be a mom. It's not fair of me to expect her to not have that. I mean, like Tony Robbins was like this with Sage. I mean, back in the day when I was a platinum partner, he was like, I don't want any more kids. And she was young. I think she was in her 20s at the time. And they just had a baby with a surrogate. So 20 years later, he finally,
What'd
you
you
will
have to
be
say, Chunky?
assimilated.
What-
Resistance is futile. Lower your shields. Your biological and technological likeness will be added to our own. We are the Borg. If you ever watch Star Trek, you would know what that is. And women are like that. It's like eventually they get our friend. We won't say their name on camera, but they had 2 kids, and he was like, I don't want any more. And she, forgot to take her pill. Oops, made a mistake, and one got slipped past the goalie, and so they had a third because she had always wanted a third. And women get what they want eventually, one way or another.
You might end up married, sir. Just letting you know. Buy a ring.
What doesn't mean you have to get married, but like I said,
If you
why
love
are
her-
you together? What's your
Right.
outcome? Do you want to co-parent with her, or do you just want a girlfriend and companionship? But if in that case, if she's really dead set on having kids, and it depends on how much she loves you, because like Tony's wife, she gave up having children because he was like, he didn't want it. And eventually, 20 years later, now they had a child through a surrogate. And then you look at Dominic and Ashley. I mean, there was a big, obviously, age gap, and she's a great stepmom to his kids from his first wife. So you look at that situation, he's like, okay, he went and got his tubes untied for her.
So I guess moral of this little rant is if you actually can see yourself living without her.
Do you want to
then-
co-parent with her? Do you want to have children with her? Do you see yourself as the mother of your children? Would you be proud to have her as the mother of your children?
Or even if they don't want kids, can you see your life, can you see her out of your life?
always got to know your downside risk. It's like if
Yeah.
you do get married and then you're like, oh, a year or two later, you want to get out. What's it going to cost? How hard is it going to be? What are the courts like? What if kids are involved? Talk to some friends that have been through it and ask them what it's like. Talk to some divorce attorneys and just find out what things are like in the real world. Because the last thing you're thinking of typically on your wedding day is a divorce and it not working out. But eventually it happens for at least half or a little bit more of the people are going to get divorced. So you should know your downside risk, what it's going to cost, how long it's going to take, what a divorce court's like, are there kids involved, what's that like, before you sign in that dotted line. That's why I think it's much better to have kind of a like a civil union type of partnership and business agreements for whatever you own or do together collectively as a family. What happens if you get kidnapped by aliens or you get hit by a bus or you get transported to another galaxy or with a hyperspace button or something.
So I have another question to ask. I guess this is like adding on. If I'm completely honest, I am in a relationship and I'm pretty much so happy with the person I'm with right now. However, I know that I'm not the only one out there who, despite the fact that you're in a very loving relationship, or whether or not you're not in a relationship, a lot of people often have doubts when it comes to not only having a future with that person in regards to marriage, but are also very discouraged that maybe they will never get married, or that they do want to get married and they think it's not in the books for them. What do you have to say about that? Do you think there's hope for that?
Well, again, that's why I was saying in the beginning, you got to focus on your outcome. If you want to have children or a family, or you want to get a Christian marriage and a Christian type union, or a Muslim type, Islamic type of union, or Jewish or whatever, then you got to make sure that the person you're in a relationship with has the same goals and values. And if you're more of a free agent type of dude and you don't want to have kids or a family, you should probably have maybe a living girlfriend or just date around. So that's the importance of knowing your outcome. And then, because we all make our decisions based on our emotions. And if we recognize somebody doesn't share the same goals and values, but we're in love with them and we feel that love, it's hard to quit that person. It's hard to leave because that kind of feeling doesn't come along where somebody stimulates you, and it's not, a lot of people have a hard time with it because they're like, how long is it going to take for the next one? Because they remember how long it took to find that last connection where you really clicked on a lot of levels. So a lot of people stay, a lot of women stick around, maybe they freeze their eggs or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's not fair to her for you to, because some guys lie about it and they just string her along and they have no intention of marrying her. So you got to look at a person's actions, and if your time's running out, and that dude's not down with it, the strongest negotiating position is being able to walk away and mean it. Ashley was literally had walked away and meant it, and Dominic said, "All right, sew me back up, Doc," and shortly thereafter.
I also think it's really important that if someone is feeling that way, they really focus on themselves and what truly makes them happy, what they love and what they love to do. That way that they don't lose themselves like within a relationship, so that they don't feel that if the relationship is going downhill or it is lost, that they have lost themselves along with losing that relationship, and that they feel like they have nothing at the end of the day. Because if they have built something for themselves, whether it's amazing hobbies, a business, whatever it is, they will be able to go back to that and feel happiness, feel love, feel centered, feel worthy.
Most people major in minor things. They're just kind of trying to get through the work week, and
But even if
ending a
it's,
bad relationship, it's like, whoa.
yeah, but even if they
Or when
find,
you're not feeling it for the other person, it's an unpleasant experience. A lot of people stick around and then whoops, slip on past the goalie, and now you're involved with each other whether you like it or not for at least 2 decades.
that's why I think people should have things that make them happy, make them love themselves at the end of the day. So If they have that and they lose the relationship that wasn't meant to be, they're good.
So be it.
Yeah, so
There's
be it.
something else out there for
Something
you.
else is going to fall into their lap. I promise you.
And if it doesn't, that means you weren't ready. You're not ready yet.
If it's meant to be, it will be.
Don't waste their time and don't let them waste your time.
And don't force things that aren't.
If it's meant to be, it'll be.
Yeah. No, but it's true.
Not if the other person screws things up. And that happens a lot.